Murder, She Watched contains adult themes and adult language. Listener discretion is advised. Murder, She Watched is for entertainment purposes only. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Murder, She Watched, the podcast where we solve murders from our couch. My name is Amy Archer. I'm your host. I'm here today with Shabnam, who has been with me on many, many true crime documentaries.
Yes.
We've done a lot of cases together.
We have. It's been fun.
Yeah, and it's been a while since you've been here, so I'm glad you're back.
Me too. This one's an interesting one.
This one's interesting. I wanted to just take a minute and make some announcements before we start. One of them is, if you listen to our coverage on Eileen, Queen of the Serial Killers, we did talk about putting out a deep dive. I had a listener who has a very, very strong legal background help me with that. Her name was Karen. She was great. So that is on Murder Club, our $10 tier. You can join by going to patreon.com, or you can just click subscribe if you're listening in Apple Podcasts. But it was a really good deep dive. We went like an hour and a half.
I saw that come up in my feed. I haven't gotten to listen to it yet this morning, but I plan to.
It was great. She was wonderful. And we also we're doing Unsolved Mysteries over there. Kyla and myself are. And
yes, that was fun.
Oh my God, I'm loving it so much.
Yeah.
And also The Staircase continues. And we're going to roll into Murdoch Murders when we're done.
I'm so excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, we have the market cornered on arrogant Southern white men, I guess. So here we go.
I'm sure there's a few of those to keep you busy, right?
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of legal expertise, Shabnam is also a lawyer. And yes. I love when you bring your legal lens.
I definitely will. I'm not a trust expert, but I'll do what I can. I have some basic knowledge, so we'll work with what we got.
I said to Shabnam over text the other day, I'm like, I'm going to need you to explain trusts to me like I'm a 5-year-old, because it's just a world I know nothing about. So
yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's start. This is the Carman Family Deaths. It is a Netflix original documentary. It is airing 2025. By the time you guys hear this, I think I'm dropping it either the day it drops or the next day. So it'll be pretty timely because we got screeners. Thank you, Netflix.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. What did you think overall of the documentary, and how glad were you that it was only an hour and a half?
Oh yeah, I would. That's what was the first thing I was going to say. They did a really good job of time management, and it was really good. I liked that. I liked that they started out with the scene of the crime and the ocean, and like they did a lot of boat stuff. I learned about boats, which I don't know anything about, so that was pretty interesting. And then just going through the characters, I had a great impression of it. I think it was awesome.
One thing I really enjoyed about it is this case is tricky because the person at the center of it has been diagnosed with ASD. They have autism, Nathan. And I was appreciative that they included autism experts.
Yeah.
And they also included, I felt like they really balanced it well, because they had his aunt who clearly believes that he's guilty. And to balance that, they had his father, who clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
And then in between you have Chuck. Is it Chuck? Yeah. Chuck LaPena, the nephew, who went on a journey of not believing that Nathan was guilty, and then eventually came over to that side. So
yeah,
I thought it was a good balance.
Same. Yeah. Voices. And I really liked that. I was kind of on the same, well, maybe we'll save it to the end, but I could relate to it. Yeah. Okay.
I related to Chuck as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start. The documentary opens on Saturday, September 17th, 2016. We learned that off the coast of Rhode Island near Block Island. Now, have you ever been in this area?
I haven't, no.
So I have, I've been around the Cape and Martha's Vineyard and stuff like that, but I've never been to Block Island. But everybody who goes says it's absolutely beautiful. It's kind of, I believe it's between Long Island and Rhode Island, I believe. And very popular, vacation spot, really beautiful.
Mhm.
22-year-old Nathan Carman and his mother, 54-year-old Linda Carman, go missing while on a fishing trip. They were always going on these trips. This was something that they shared, a love of fishing, a passion for boating. They were always out.
Yeah.
And they always left out of the same port in Rhode Island. Linda's friend, okay, Linda too,
Yeah.
says Linda was supposed to call me that day and she never did. So she alerts the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard jumps into action. And that was my first indication these people had money.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to go look for these people right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
It's sort of in jest. The Coast Guard
Yeah.
probably goes looking for everybody, but they just really sprang to it real quick.
Yeah.
They search for 6 days and they find nothing. And I did enjoy that the boat was called the Chicken Pox.
Yeah. That was cute. I like that.
Kind of cute.
Yeah.
So they call off the search, and the next day, a freighter spots Nathan floating alone 100 miles south of Martha's Vineyard. He is in great shape. He doesn't seem tired. He doesn't seem weak. He is not dehydrated. Put a pin in all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We hear audio of Nathan telling the Coast Guard what happened, and he's very polite, using a lot of yes, sir. He says he heard a funny noise from the engine compartment. He looked and it was full of water, and the boat just dropped out from under him. And he says, when I saw the life raft, I did not see my mom. Have you found her?
Mm.
Now, I've been in the classroom for 15 years. I've worked with a lot of students who have ASD.
Okay.
So I'm trying to, his speech pattern and the way that he communicates feels very familiar to me. It didn't raise a flag to me or anything like that, but they talk a lot about that in the documentary, how detailed he is, how polite he is. Those are all kind of markers.
Yeah.
So I was happy that when they sort of start to use that to raise suspicion later, that there's a lawyer, an autism lawyer, who's like, no, that's just, that is a characteristic of ASD in this way, the way that he talks. So I was happy for that.
Yeah, I really appreciated that too, because, let's not look at his pattern of communication. Let's try and actually find the evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Linda's presumed dead at this point. And we see Nathan giving a press conference and he's thanking everyone. And Clark, his dad, was very happy to see him. He's like, oh, I just threw my arms around him. And he says Nathan wanted to go home right away and be by himself. And dad says, Nathan doesn't verbalize this, but I could tell he was very upset not being able to rescue his mother.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we see a news interview with him, and he says the way that he handled being at sea for 7 days was to focus on what he had to do in order to survive. So he's very task oriented.
Right.
Like, this is the way I got through it. I just focused on another task. And he says, after the first day, I tried to regiment myself, and the food packs that I had said to eat 4 a day. So I did. And then I spotted the Orient Lucky around midday. So he had all of this stuff in his life raft. He had food packs. He had a machine that converts salt water to drinking water. Are they expensive?
I feel like they might have mentioned it in the documentary. Did they, or did they not mention that?
I don't think they talked about the cost, but they did talk about how odd it was for a boat that size to have one.
Right. I don't know why, for some reason, like $70 is coming to my mind, but that could be totally off. But like during these parts of the documentary, I almost like don't know what to say, because you sort of feel like, well, this is odd, but maybe somebody that's like, has ASD is going to do things in a way that I wouldn't do things.
Yeah, they're planners. They're going to plan for things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I kind of almost like was sort of left sort of just speechless and left to wonder and watch the rest of it at this point,
Yeah, I agree. We meet a writer for Wired magazine, and he says at first this was a heroic survival story, and they felt terrible for Nathan losing his mom, but the narrative began to change as people grew suspicious. And one of the first things that made people suspicious was the footage of him being rescued. It was played on the news, and people who are pirates, seafaring people, captains, I don't know, I'm just trying to throw out boating terms. They understood that he should not have been in that good of shape for what he had endured, which according to him was, I think he said 6-7 days at sea, because he said the boat sank the first day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he claimed he was at sea 7 days. And Eric Gemp, who is a Coast Guard person, member of the
Yeah.
Coast Guard. Would you say member of the Coast Guard? Yeah. My nautical terms are not going to be on point here, guys.
Coast Guard man. I don't know.
Seafarer.
Yeah.
He said, these things just don't happen. You don't spend 7 days at sea floating at the continental shelf on a life raft. Very uncommon.
Right. I just the wherewithal you need to have to ration out food for like 4 times a day for 7 days while you're like floating. And then what they said, which was really striking to me, was that the impact that would have on your body and your balance and your muscles. And I hadn't really thought of that, but I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. If I go on a roller coaster, I feel a little funky afterwards,
Yeah, they
So,
talk about like the horizon line, that it can
mhm,
it without the horizon line, like you can get sick. And I don't know. I've
mm,
never been at sea, so I'm not
mhm.
really sure what they meant. But yeah, they were talking about sense of balance and stuff like that being off. Also, they were talking on Reddit, because of course I was on Reddit about this, and
Mhm.
they were saying like he was not windburned, he was not sunburned, he was not what they
Mm.
call salt crusted, which is when
Oh,
have
yeah.
salt in your hair and on your face from the
Yeah.
wind and the sea. So like all of that was missing, which was very strange. Even just
Mm.
let's just look at just the sunburn. He
Right.
wasn't sunburned.
Right. That is
So
wild.
yeah, it's wild. So go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Well, I was thinking like what month was it? It must not have been winter, because then it would have been raining on him and he probably would have
Um,
drowned,
it
right?
was September 17th, best month ever, September.
Nice. And
So
so,
there
but
was sun.
yeah, so there was sun. Yeah. So yeah, that is really crazy that he wasn't
Hmm.
sunburned at all.
Yeah. Dad says, oh, and then he was also able to jump out of the life raft, kick and swim, and pull himself up onto a ladder, which I could spend 75 days in full health, eating 3 square meals a day inside my house and not be able to pull myself up on a ladder.
Yeah,
So,
and then they showed him walking up this. I don't know why there's like a lot of steps. I mean, I guess you have to
mhm.
get into the boat, into the
Yeah.
ship or whatever. But it was a lot of steps, and he was just stepping on them like I do going up my stairs.
Yeah.
Like nothing's happened. So
Yeah.
that was odd.
Yeah, the video really made me think. That to
Hmm.
me was a key piece of evidence.
For sure. Yeah.
So now we learned that they actually searched Nathan's house while Nathan and Linda were missing, because they were looking to see if there were any clues that Nathan had any intent on harming himself or her mother. Now, what we don't know at this point is they already suspect he killed his grandfather. So they're looking, it's there's more of a criminal element to it than a welfare check, right?
Right. Right.
And they search and they find a weird list of sorts that is titled "Why I Am Reluctant to Cooperate with Police." And the bullet points are: emotionally, I just can't bear another interview. Philosophically, I love this one.
Yeah.
Philosophically, the idea of proving one's innocence repels me. Generally, the police are corrupt. And then he says, I've been advised by a lawyer not to. So, in my mind, this is out of context, because we learn that he is being questioned and investigated for his grandfather's death. So, this list could have been a response to all of that questioning.
Right. And it makes sense to have these thoughts. It is, again, odd in my mind why you would write this down and keep the note with you.
Hmm.
But, again, like this is a communication thing to me. It's less so like a piece of like evidence, especially like you said, in context of the fact that he was being questioned before.
Yeah, he's being questioned about his grandfather's death, so he may have written this down, but the way that they frame it right now is that,
Mhm.
"Oh, we think he wrote it about Linda, so this looks premeditated,"
Right.
and it
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
So they question him, and he tells them that he and Linda met at a parking lot, and they bought some bait, which were eels. They put it in the boat, but the cops found the bait in his truck. So to me, that is a second piece of physical evidence here that's
Mhm.
not making sense.
Mhm.
I tried really to focus on the pieces of evidence that were not related to his communication, like you said earlier,
Exactly, yeah.
or anything that can be connected to being neurodivergent. So like
Right.
just, like saying you put the bait in the boat, but and so you go on this long fishing trip and you don't bring the bait is a red
Mhm.
flag to me.
Right. Right.
So they leave the marina.
Especially
Go
just
ahead.
to before you go forward, especially in the context of like if you're the kind of person that is like sort of like a hyper preparer to have the
Yes, good
water
point.
changing
Mhm.
device. So,
Great point. Yep.
yeah.
So they leave the marina after midnight. Why are these people all going fishing in the middle of the night? Is this a common thing? Maybe it is that you spend like the dark hours getting to the fishing place.
I'm not a fishing expert, but all I'll say is didn't Scott Peterson do this at a weird time too?
Yes, yes. All the
So,
time he was hanging around the bay. You're right. Mhm.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I don't know if this is as much a criminal thing or a boat thing.
We're
I'm not
gonna we're
quite
gonna
sure.
need Becca to run this past her husband Steve, who is a fisherman.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
figure out what's going on here. So they leave the marina after midnight, and when they left, they changed the. So I'm guessing similar to a flight plan. You have like a boating plan of where you're going to go and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So they changed the plan to go to Block Canyon, which was much further. And some of the seafaring men tell us that it was another 60 to 70 miles offshore, which is a big change for a boat that size. It was only like a
Mhm.
30-foot boat.
Yeah.
So now they ask him why he didn't send a distress signal. And he says, there was no point. I knew it wouldn't reach anyone. Again, this is his logical mind saying, nobody's out there. Why would I waste my time doing that?
Yeah, I could see this as more of a communication and less of a evidence fact in my mind.
Yeah. So he says, I didn't even know if there were any other boats in range. And they think this is suspicious, but I have a note that he's just being logical, like he's being practical to
Yeah.
him. And he
Yeah.
is very steeped in practicality and logic.
Yeah, I much more feel that way for that it wouldn't reach shore. I feel a little bit more unsure about whether our reasoning stands when it comes to that other boats could have hurt him because he doesn't know that. So why wouldn't he try when this is such a big disaster?
Yeah, and just because you can't see other boats doesn't mean
Mhm.
they're not there.
Right. Yeah.
So we learned that Linda's sisters, she has three of them, really believe Nathan killed her. And one of the things I read on Reddit is they were suing the shit out of Nathan to try to prevent him from collecting any kind of inheritance from his mother, from his grandfather. They were like using every legal step that they could find.
But the crazy part is that it's also interesting because they would then get that money. So they're
Right.
self-interested,
Sure.
right?
Of
So,
course.
yeah.
Yeah. So Charlene is Linda's sister and says this was just one big Greek tragedy. So we get a little bit of the backstory now. So John Chocolos, the grandfather, the patriarch of this family, he was a Greek businessman who built a ton of big buildings. Like he would build assisted living homes and hospitals, and he had a big construction company. And he eventually was like a self-made millionaire, and they buy this 20,000 square foot house with an indoor pool and pet elephants on the property. And Charlene's like, that's the first time I realized we had money.
You think? You know, like I'm just what's striking to me is that he was like when they said he was a millionaire, I thought they meant like 5 million or 10 million. But then
No.
later we find out like it's so much more. It's kind of I
It's a lot of
I'm more
millions.
interested. I want them to do like a profile on him because I'm interested to like see like what he was like and how he like, did his businesses. He seemed
Yeah.
sort of like not a nice dad and, crazy dad
Mhm.
and all that, but
Mhm.
they just kind of glossed over like he was a hard worker and he made all this money. So, I don't know, more interested in that, but
Yeah, and I mean, for them to buy that house in New Hampshire, I'm thinking it was probably what, the 80s, maybe the 70s? That was a lot of fucking
yeah.
money. A lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was probably millions at that time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Linda Gam is Linda's best friend. We met her already, but she says, I knew Linda my whole life, and her father was extremely controlling. And at
Mhm.
one point, when she was old enough, she moved to California and he disowned her for it.
Yeah.
And she was in the National Guard. Now, let me ask you a question. Did they
Mhm.
mention Linda's mother at all?
No, and I was wondering that too. They glossed that's why we need a part like we need a prequel to this documentary
Yes.
about the
The life
parents.
of John Chocolos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the mother's alive. I don't know if she's in Linda's life. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and like how long were the parents together? When did she
Mhm.
leave? Did she
Yeah.
die? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was she murdered? I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Clark and Linda meet in California. She was in the National Guard out there and living her life out there. And he says her family sucked. And
Mhm.
basically, he says her dad lured us back to Rhode Island, New Hampshire area with the promise of a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, which I'm like, you could have been a millionaire, dude, in your own right if you
Yeah.
had a Dunkin' Donuts franchise. Because
I
even
know.
though they went like almost completely bankrupt in the 90s, they came back with some
Oh
vigor.
yeah. Yeah.
So Clark says the problem is, so we come back and her dad had lied about it and he doesn't give us the franchise.
Mm.
And so Linda went to work for John, and Clark says this is how John was. He controlled all of his children.
Mhm.
Chuck, the nephew, he says my aunt Linda was a lot like John and they fought constantly. And Clark
Mm.
says John was very violent. I saw him shove and hit people. His wife, that's the only mention we get of the mother,
Mhm.
and his daughters.
Yeah.
And Chuck, oh God, tell me
Yeah.
you are a child of abuse without telling me
Yeah.
you're a child of abuse. Goes, I
Seriously.
mean, yeah, we'd get into occasional fistfights, but no one went to the hospital. Nobody's killing each other.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
like, "Okay."
Okay.
Yeah. I just that really struck me too because I was like, "Okay, this was a dark family." You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This father sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. But it's also interesting that they say Linda was like her father
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, "Okay, well, in what ways?" Because it makes me wonder if there's more to the relationship between her and her son Nathan than we
Mm-hmm.
know.
How I interpreted that was the other 3 daughters not let him, but were more complacent and let in
Mm.
his control over their life, and she was not going to let him, which is how he is. He is
Mhm.
going to pave his own path and do his own thing and be bullheaded,
I
and she
see.
was the same way. So she was a problem for him
I
probably.
see. Okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
could see that too, yeah.
Yeah. So in December 2013, John is found dead in his bed, a gunshot wound to the head. He was 87 years old. And I'm
Mhm.
like, why is somebody murdering an 87-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just let nature take its course? What do you
I
got?
feel like
5, 6 years to wait out, if that?
but criminals are so greedy and impatient, that's the problem, you know?
Well, let me tell you something. I
Yeah.
was real stuck on this crime scene photo because there's a baby doll and a blanket on the bed. And I don't know
Ye
how it got there. When they
in I
first show the bed, they
Yeah.
show it in 2 times. One time they show it the bedding is completely stripped and all you see is the blood stain.
Yeah.
The first time they show it, it looks like they were responding, so there's blankets on the bed, and
Uh-huh.
there is a baby doll in like a hand-knitted Afghan.
I vaguely remember that, and I just remember thinking, like, maybe they just stuck that in there and it was unrelated, but that is really weird if it was in an 87-year-old's bed?
Yeah, so they did say that one of the sisters found him, like one of his
Uh,
daughters. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she had her grandchild with her or something and had that in her
oh,
hand and said it. I don't know, but
yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
off-putting to me
Yeah.
to find a
Yeah.
doll on this bed of this 87-year-old man.
Yeah. Their
So
whole family is just everything gets creepier and creepier, right?
everything is strange. So the
Yeah.
police say it was a hard scene. There was no struggle. He was executed, straight
Mhm.
up executed. I can't even imagine, like I said, he was 87. Like, it's just so sad that somebody gets murdered at 87 years. Like, it's like you're almost out your life. You've worked hard, you've lived this life, you built this dynasty, and then somebody takes you out. It's like a real
Mhm.
shame. It's a
Yeah.
shame and it's weird. So
Yeah, but I feel like there's two sides to that coin, right? Like you work so hard, you did all this, but then it's like, well, you're this terrible. And I'm not saying people should kill terrible people at all. That's
no,
not what I'm
yeah,
saying.
right,
But
of
I'm
course.
saying like, I'm saying there's so many like forces at play here, and I think the money just makes people so much more self-interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in 2030, or sorry, just did that. They pull everyone in for questioning.
Hmm.
And Linda tells her friend Linda that she thought it was a mob hit, but I don't know if this makes sense to me because he was in big construction, commercial big construction, which it is a stereotype, but it's a stereotype for a reason that there are some shady, nefarious people at play in that field. Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there for us to debate. But
Right.
my question is, this man is 87 years old.
Hmm.
Presumably he is retired. He has stepped down from running that business. If the business is still running, he's not too involved.
Right.
Why take him out now?
Yeah, I don't know, but I have to say, like, I don't know how much big construction people make, but I felt like this was like a lot of wealth. And I
Yeah,
just wonder if it's supplemented by something additional. And like,
maybe.
that's where I was like, okay, maybe that's where
If
this was coming in
so, I have a little expertise in this area, a little experience, not expertise in this
in the
area
mob.
because
I'm just
I am Italian, but no. My husband worked in construction.
okay.
And he worked for a very big company that did a
Hmm.
lot of commercial buildings in New
Okay.
Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. This guy was like a billionaire who owned this company just from
Oh,
doing
okay.
that. So, like, you
Okay.
can make a ton of money in
Okay.
that
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, the police aren't sold because they said it's a large caliber bullet and the mob usually uses small caliber. Okay.
Yeah.
And the police say the mob don't knock on your door and kill you, they disappear you. And I wrote, "Did you see The Godfather? They will come to your house. They don't
Yeah.
always like just make you disappear."
Yeah, but that does feel then a little more intimate. Not that I
It
like,
does. It absolutely
you know,
does.
yeah, and I don't know, like, different types of mob hits, but it would feel like if it was like maybe someone that was more in the inner circle, like you'd know where they live and you'd feel comfortable going to their house versus
Yep.
somebody that just work with and like just in construction without anything else.
You
You know.
brought up a really good point. Was there forced entry?
Hmm. Yeah.
That could make a difference here
Yeah.
because if there wasn't, then it's somebody who knows how to get in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know. So nothing is really stolen. So they're like, this is a murder for murder's sake. Like,
Right.
this guy's practically a billionaire. Nobody stole anything. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the kids had a living trust, and the four daughters got $25,000 a month. I'm like, oh my God, that's more than I
Yeah.
made in a whole year for much of my teaching career. Jesus Christ. So,
Yeah.
how does a living trust work? Does he just put aside a bunch of money and that is protected and it feeds them?
Yeah, it feeds them. But it could be different things. It depends on, you can set up living trusts in many different ways, right? But if they're made, so my thought here was if he's giving them 25K a month, that feels like some kind of income. Like perhaps he has some like investment properties in a living trust that
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
making $100,000 after $100,000
Wow.
after like after expenses. And then he's like, oh, I'm giving the income to the kids, like potentially, he could be giving away principal, but it feels like that's a lot to be giving away. And it's a consistent amount, which makes me feel like maybe that's how much he was making.
And I wonder if by putting it in the trust, it evades a large amount of taxes for them.
I don't know.
Because I'm like, why
I
wouldn't he just give them the money? But it feels like there's a tax reason for it.
Well, if he's not taking the income himself, that's
Mhm.
not his
Okay.
income that he
It
has
could
to
be
report.
passed to the trust.
Yeah, and so they'd have to pay some taxes on it. I think, I don't know. I'm not a tax expert, but because the daughters are getting it, or the daughters would have to pay income tax on
Right.
it, but like
Right.
he doesn't have to pay income tax on
Okay.
it.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. So they're going to get also $42 million to be split when he dies. It's a lot of
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
Nathan becomes a suspect mainly because he was the last person to see his grandfather alive. So Clark is dad, don't forget. He says Nathan was the firstborn grandson of a Greek dynasty. And John, his grandfather, loved him. He doted on Nathan his whole life, but he also interfered. So now we're going to
Hmm.
learn about Nathan's autism. So Nathan
Okay,
was,
but can I
go
can I
ahead.
just
Yeah.
say
Hmm.
this feels very like patriarchal. Like this man has been waiting just to have some kind of male heir, and
Yeah.
he's like, okay, I don't care what kid
Yeah. Cause he
issues
had the
this kid
four
has.
daughters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't care what issues he has, he's perfect. Like
Yes.
that's what it feels like.
Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
I agree. And there can also be some, no heir of mine is
Mhm.
going to have ASD. What is that?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's very much, you know what? It comes across very much walk it off.
Yes.
Just walk it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So Clark says Nathan was diagnosed with autism at 4 or 5 years old. It is now referred to as autism spectrum disorder because we understand it more as a spectrum than actual, 3 points on a scale.
Right.
So they didn't know much about it at the time, and they get him this horse, and the horse's name is Cruz, and
Mhm.
they notice that he's becoming very close with the horse and not really able to make a lot of friends, and so they decide they're going to get him help, but the
Mhm.
family intervenes, and especially John. And Clark says John believed Nathan would be fine and didn't need help, and John and Linda fought constantly over this.
Mhm.
That's really sad.
Yeah, really, really
You should be
sad.
able to do whatever you need to for your child. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a whole other level of controlling when it's
Mhm.
like the grandparent controlling to that level for the child. But I've heard of like, children and for varying issues, and I don't remember any one specific situation that I can recall like a specific issue the child had, but like that just caring for animals and being with animals kind of like
Mhm.
helps children come out of their shell and things like
Yep.
that. So I think that is a positive thing, but then, I obviously John was just interfering too much.
Absolutely. There's a whole equine therapy world for
Mhm.
people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, they didn't get him help, like I said. Lisa Tuddy is the FBI person that we meet for this case, and
Mhm.
she says, "We questioned Linda about her whereabouts when John was killed. But we were able to clear her, no problem with cell phone data, and she was completely cleared. Like there was no doubt that she was where she said she was and was not able to kill her father." Now they interview Nathan. He is 19.
Mhm.
First of all, I do not believe that a 19-year-old should be interviewed without a lawyer, let alone a 19-year-old with ASD. Like that was
Mhm.
my problem. I'm always like young people. I think everybody should be questioned with a lawyer, but especially young people. So,
Yeah, I agree. And I also think a 19-year-old with ASD maybe will be less likely to invoke their rights because they may just be thinking like very logically, at least the
like
way
I
that
didn't
he
do
we
it, so why would I need a lawyer? Yeah.
yeah, and, "Oh,
Yep.
you're asking me why I brought X thing on the boat or why I didn't bring the
Mhm.
bait, and I'll just tell you why I didn't do that," and, like, not realizing sort of where this is headed, maybe.
Well, and that's exactly what happens. The police are
Mhm.
really put off by his communication style. They're like, one guy is basically like, his affect isn't right. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Well, the thing is that that's what they use on neurotypical people, which
Mhm.
is okay, but then that's not what
This is
this is.
different. Right.
Yeah.
This is a different rule book.
Yeah.
So at one point, Nathan is very upset. We don't see this on camera. We hear this from the police that he's very upset because his grandfather just got his head blown off. And the
Mhm.
police are like, how did he know that? We didn't say anything about that. But I'm like, but his aunt is the one who found the grandfather, and I'm sure told Linda.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dad was shot.
Yeah.
So they're again trying to kind of give something out of context, I felt like,
Right,
or
right.
not
Like,
giving all the information.
yeah, they're trying to like pull some rabbit out of a hat when
Yep.
it's not quite there.
So
Yeah.
then we meet Scott, a detective who can't even bother to get out of his car. I love these interviews where like somebody just has the car door open.
Yeah.
And he says, I've been doing this a long time. And this guy was off. And that's when the other police officer says his affect isn't right. I mean, there is autism here, but something still ain't right.
Right.
Okay. Now we meet Elizabeth Keeley, and I was so happy to have her voice here. She is an autism specialist attorney, and she says Nathan should never have been interrogated. People with autism are frequently misinterpreted. She says he spoke in very stilted terms and gave a lot of detail, which can
Yeah.
come off for a neurotypical person as cold and calculating. But for
Right.
him, that's just the way he communicates.
Mhm.
So he does tell investigators, like, I love my mom and I would never speak about her in a bad way, but she did tell me once that she hated her father. But I don't think she had anything to do with this. In the
The
go ahead.
I'm just laughing because this is where it's like, they didn't ask you that. So just why'd you say that?
Right. Right.
Like, I don't know.
He's
And
volunteering information, but he's 19.
yeah, I know, but it's also like, and then it's like, who doesn't, who, I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe you are like, aren't can't relate to that, but who doesn't hate their father from time to time? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
Like,
hated my
I don't,
father when I was a teenager
okay.
many times,
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
So he tells in the interrogation, they're telling him, we have a problem with you because you were the last person to see your grandfather. That's why you are on the hot seat specifically.
Mhm.
So Nathan says, we went to dinner. We had a good time. I expected to hear from him. So here's his alibi.
Yeah.
He has dinner with his grandfather. Then later that night, he meets with Linda again, 3:00 in the morning in this parking
Mhm.
lot to go fishing. But the problem is there is an hour between 2 and 3 where he is unaccounted for. And he was an hour late to meet his mother. And that time frame between 2 and 3, I guess, is when they think the murders happened.
Yeah.
So now we see him being deposed. We're not sure why yet. And you guys all know I love a deposition. Love it. And he is asked about this and he says, I left my apartment late. I got kind of lost. And they're showing on the map like all the ways that he went to go to this place. And it was all over the place.
Which was like his mother's house, right? Not just any place.
I couldn't remember if it was his mother's house or if it was a place that Nathan chose for them to meet and a place that he had been there all the time. I think it was like their
Yeah.
usual fishing spot.
Okay. Yeah. And it was just funny because, like you said, they're showing it on the map. And,
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, like, who do I know that would do this, or would I do this? And I'm like, what is it that you're thinking about? It's like you're zoning out, right? And you're like
Yeah.
distracted or
Yep.
something,
Yep.
and it's like, about what? Like, was he planning on, it would be helpful if he said, I was about to have this like really stressful conversation with my mom about how I want to start dating someone she hates or something. You know what I mean? Like, and
Or was
anything.
he like, I'm exhausted. It's 2:00 in the morning. I slept for
Yeah.
like 2 hours and I was getting up to go do this. I was just kind of out of it and I
Yeah.
missed the exit. But here's my question, Shabnam. This is 2013. Do we not have surveillance of where his car went? Like, he's driving these kind of big highways at 2:00 in the morning. How do we not have traffic cams or, CCTV from parking lots of stores that he drove by to get on the exit and stuff like that? It's
Yeah.
weird that we don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they may have been, it was a small area, right? It was just a couple miles. So there may not have
Yeah.
been enough within that to trace his steps. And then also, I wonder if they have like a large, I mean, I don't know that the mom is obviously as rich as a grandfather, but they may not have, they may have some property and you can't really see where he goes on the property or once you
Yeah,
get close to the
maybe.
property.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So another thing that's suspicious is the mom's calling him like 5 times while he's driving around the middle of the night and he doesn't answer the phone. So it's kind of weird.
Mm, yeah.
David Sullivan is Nathan's defense attorney, and he says there is a neighbor who heard gunshots at 2 a.m., and we can account for Nathan at that time on surveillance. So I was assuming they meant his house, Nathan's house, that Nathan has
Mhm.
surveillance. And it's corroborated by the surveillance. And the problem with that is she accurate about the time? We don't know. Like
Right.
that would rely on her being 100% accurate. I'd feel better taking that to court if I was, the defense attorney, if I had one other person who said, I
Yeah.
also heard it around that time.
Or if she's like if she's like, I have to give my dog medicine at 2 a.m. every day. So I had to wake up she has to like have some kind of other reason
Yeah.
for why she's sure about it.
Yep. So the police want to polygraph the family. They all agree except Nathan. I agree with that. Do not let him get polygraphed at all.
Yeah.
Linda fails, but she passed it, and then she failed and one was inconclusive. And they believe that she failed. Chuck, the nephew, tells us this because they were asking questions like, "Do you know who murdered John Choklos?"
Mm.
And so now it becomes the family believes Linda knew Nathan did it. This is what's going on now.
Yeah, that's such a Sophie's choice for her.
I know.
Like, yeah,
I
it's
try
just
to
I
put
feel so
myself in
sad.
that position. Like if, God forbid, one of my girls came to me and said, like, I did this heinous thing in our family. Like, my instinct would be to protect my kid. I have to admit, even over my parents.
Right, right. And in that sense, you're almost like if it's your parent, your kid kind of did it to you, and then you're kind of like, but it's just such a like mix of conflicting
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of like you feel more like it is your choice to decide to like forgive them or protect them. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
just tough.
So now we sort of get to the question. Again, I think this documentary is well structured because like the
Mm-hmm.
natural question that would come up then is if Linda knew about this, why would she protect him? And we learned that she just messed stuff up so bad for this kid when he was a teenager. Not all of her doing, most of it was her father, that
Mm-hmm.
she may have felt guilt. So what
Mm-hmm.
happened is when he's a teenager, Cruz passes away, the horse,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts isolating himself. And it happens slowly at first. Linda has a fifth wheel, a RV in the driveway,
Yeah.
and he starts staying in there. And then it becomes more and more and more frequent. And Clark says, he was getting worse there. He started taking apart the microwave. He's not talking to people. He's urinating in bottles.
Oh
Like
my
it's
gosh.
bad.
Yeah.
And Chuck said that he heard a kid was bullying Nathan at some point. Nathan had pulled a knife on him. So now, oh God, they throw him in one of those fucking wilderness camps. Don't ever do this. Parents,
Yeah.
please don't ever do this. How many documentaries do we have to watch now
Yeah. I
to
know.
know how bad these are? I'm like, wait a minute, they're doing this like in the 21st century, they're doing this? Yes.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, is the urinating in bottles, is it like a and maybe you don't know this, but is it like a depression sign of depression symptom, or is it
I think it's
like,
something deeper.
oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
it's like a paranoia type
Oh,
situation. Where
oh,
I've seen it traditionally has been when people have like severe paranoia.
ugh,
I
okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
So this wilderness camp is the type, it's in Utah, and it's the type where they kidnap you in the middle of the
Mhm.
night. Jesus
Mm.
Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
So the
There's a scripted show about this on, Netflix, I think.
oh,
Oh, I can't
Wayward.
remember. Yes,
I
Wayward.
watched it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting. It was
It's
scary.
dark.
But
It's
yeah,
dark.
dark, yeah.
So the Wired reporter has a letter that Nathan wrote to his priest. And he's basically like, the divide between my mother and myself is growing, and she basically wants me to be nonverbal, drooling in her living room until I grow old. Yikes.
Yeah.
And he's like, she'll stop at nothing to make that dream come true. Wow.
Yeah, and I like struggled with this when I watched it because I think that this is where when they said that Linda was like her father, it gives like a little seed for me because I'm thinking, was she a little bit controlling? But then also, if you have somebody that's struggling, trying to manage them can make them feel controlled. Like
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
really,
Yep.
it's really tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Dad says when he got home, he was talking about the church and the devil, and like he was deteriorating. So they put him in this Middlesex hospital for psychiatric evaluation. He was supposed to be there getting therapy by himself, but every day John came.
Mm.
And then eventually they have a summit, and John like says, if you don't let me get him out of this, I'm cutting you off. And then according to Clark, he slapped Linda and said, we're taking him out of here.
That's insane.
Charlene says, my dad did not want to accept that Nathan was sick, and we had mental illness in the family. And we learned that so John's twin, which is Chuck's mother, actually, they say it was depression. I'm guessing it was probably something more that was undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Had to go to a quote old school like mental hospital, and they did shock treatment on her, and she was completely destroyed from this. And so that was the experience that John had with mental illness.
Right.
And he did not want that for his grandson. So now Nathan is free. He's living full time in the camper, and we see Linda changes her will, leaving the house to somebody else, but saying, you're going to get all my money. You have all your grandfather's money. You're good. I just, you clearly don't like my house. I want to leave it to somebody else.
It's funny though that she did that, right? Because she's not like you're on your own. She kind of almost just wants to stick it to him just a teensy bit,
I agree with you. I thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Like, why not just, I don't know. Like
why even tell him then, right? Like he could find out upon her death.
That's the thing. It's the telling him that was weird for me. So we learned that Nathan was getting about $100,000 a year from John, and John was getting annoyed and started to want him to like go to college and get his life together. And Chuck says it was very clear. So Nathan goes and lives with Chuck for a little bit. And Chuck is like, it was very clear Nathan needed medication, but he would not do it. His grandfather had him convinced that therapists and medication were bad, and I was not doing it. Now, Elizabeth Keeley says, if someone has a major diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, but refuse to accept that they also have a contributing serious mental illness as well, that can be catastrophic with deadly consequences. And I think this was important to note that ASD is not violent. Right. And that's, I want to make sure everybody hears us that we are saying that you are not violent if you have ASD. But what she's saying is if you have that in conjunction with a large, serious mental diagnosis and it's untreated, I think it can really get out of hand very quickly.
Well, and like pile on like potential trauma here.
Yeah.
Right. Like if they were having fistfights off and on, I mean, that's not exactly flowers and rainbows.
But Shabnam, nobody went to the hospital. What are you talking about?
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Nobody died yet. So they searched Nathan's house 6 months after John died, and Nathan had purchased a Sig Sauer semi-automatic assault weapon out of state, and they have the receipt. They still have not been able to find this weapon, but the ammunition is, I think it's like a 308, which is what matches the ammunition at John's murder site. To me, I feel like that was the smoking gun. The smoking gun, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Like that really pushed me towards, okay, now we know this guy has a weapon and it matches the weapon that was used.
Yeah.
Okay. Tully says he lied about this gun when we questioned him, and we see that. Now we learn Nathan inherited 414 because they're all saying, why would he do this? His grandfather's funding his life.
Yeah.
But we learned that grandpa was slowing down that trickle because he
Yeah.
wanted him to start to do other things. And so Nathan inherits $414,000 from John's life insurance. And also, probably most damning, he sends a formal memo to his grandfather's lawyers before his grandfather's death, asking questions about how the trust will be distributed when certain family members die.
Okay, that I thought was very damning.
The police characterize it as, who has to die in order for me to get some money? And it did kind of feel that way.
Yeah, I would like to read more of that, though. They just put like little clips on the screen, but that was really interesting to me to see that. Yeah.
His defense lawyers say that John was supporting him, he would lose money, and he was never arrested for it.
Mhm.
At one point, we hear this anecdote about a priest finding Nathan and Linda in a church. Nathan's like on the altar begging for his forgiveness. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Dad says at
well, that
Go
was weird too, right? Because basically they said she was sitting, there was a point after the John Choclos died where she was sitting in the back of the church and watching him like almost like just cry at the altar watching Nathan cry at the altar for hours, like almost like a weird like penance thing. And I'm I'm wondering like what's going on psychologically with these people. Was she like, is this what she was watching this to make herself feel better and making him do this to make himself feel better?
Well, and I think this goes to the fact that she knew, right? Because she. So Dad says isolation got worse. He buys a property in Vermont, starts fixing the house up. And Dad's proud of this. He learned how to fix up houses and he was doing it. And he even wanted to start a construction business, blah, blah, blah. The cops are like, the house is in complete disarray. And they show it. And it's in various stages of remodel. I wouldn't say it's like in complete disarray. Somebody could stay there.
But it depends on like how long it took him to do that. Like if that's how it was for 3 years, like you're not very competent at this job,
I grew up in a house. I tell the story all the time. My parents bought a $17,000 house when we were kids, thinking they would fix it up, even though neither one of them knows anything about construction. So they had to pay somebody to do it. So I grew up in a house that was in various stages of remodeling all the time. Just open stud walls. You know what I mean? Like sheets hanging for barriers. It was constant.
But I also think it's different when you're doing it on like somebody else's money and you're feeling entitled to their money, and then you're not showing any competence. Like it feels like he has a very large ego, and by he I mean Nathan. And he doesn't actually know what he is and isn't capable of managing.
Yeah. Now we go back to the deposition. Again, he's describing the engine taking on water, and he says, the person asking him the question says, "Where was your mother during this?" He says, "I asked her to bring in 2 fishing lines." And the lawyer's like, "You didn't tell her to put on a life jacket? You had 2 feet of water in your engine room? And you didn't say," and Nathan says, "I didn't want her to panic. I wanted to keep her busy while I tried to fix the problem." The Coast Guard guy says, boats just don't drop out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And now we learn he's being deposed, and he basically is going through this whole big nightmare because he decided to file an insurance claim on the boat.
This is just so such a delightful point in the documentary, because the first part about him telling his mom to bring in the fishing lines is believable, and it kind of goes in the column of like maybe different types of communication, or even just in a neurotypical person may decide to do that as well, just to be like, I need to just keep that person busy
while I figure this out.
Yeah. But then, it just gets worse and worse. And this insurance, why would you file? It's just so crazy. It's just the brazenness, the stubbornness, the like entitlement, the big ego.
It's kind of greed.
It's greed. Yeah. And greed is just, I think that's the crazy part of it, is half these criminals would get away with the things they do if they just were like a little less greedy, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the insurance company was getting ready to pay the claim, but like one of the last things they did was speak with the marina owners, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we saw Nathan out there like drilling holes in the boat and shit." Like the
Mm,
day before they went out. So he was working on this boat and he removed what they call the trim tabs. And when
yeah.
you remove the trim tabs, you have 3 holes. Now they are above the water line, but
Yeah.
like any kind of splish splashy of the water is going to get in there.
Yeah.
Nathan, they don't talk about this in the documentary, but Nathan claimed that he had um help me, filled them up with
Oh, yeah.
epoxy and paper towels.
Paper
Did they say
towel,
that
yeah.
in the
That
doc? I
sounds,
don't think so.
like,
I
so
read it in on
I
Reddit, but
saw the okay, maybe you read it on Reddit, because I saw the, pictures of it being filled in, but
mhm.
I don't recall them actually saying what the material was, but paper towels is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I got onto this boating thread on Reddit,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "This was a fiberglass boat. You needed a fiberglass repair kit, which Nathan had and didn't use." So that
Mm,
was interesting too.
yeah, yeah.
So his dad thinks they're reading too much into this, and his defense lawyers too. They're like, "Why would he do this in broad daylight and then kill his father or kill his grandfather and then 3 years later kill his mother?" Well, because his mother found out about it. She was a loose end.
Sure, but also, well, she knew about it for a long time, so I feel like he would have had to have felt like she was going
Was
to
gonna
tell
say
soon.
something. Mhm.
And then also, though, but the holes is a weird thing, because it's almost like, why would you just go out and onto the water, endanger yourself, and like just kind of be like, TikTok, when are these 4 tiny holes going to cause this to happen? It's a weird
It's
way.
weird. Yeah,
It's
and
almost like I feel like one would only do that if they were okay with themselves dying too.
mhm, yep. And one boater actually said, like, in a where he's going and he's tuna fishing or whatever,
Mhm.
like, a lot of times people will take those tabs off because they create drag, but, like,
Mm,
you're not worried about speed when you're tuna
yeah.
fishing. So, like, they were like,
Yeah.
"This made no sense."
Oh, interesting.
So one of Nathan's lawyers has a grandson the same age with the same stressors of autism, and that's this man's words. And he says, "I'll do whatever I have to get this kid justice." Like my heart doctor even said, "Dude, you can't work anymore." And I'm like, "I will do this if it kills me to get this kid justice." And I'm like,
Okay, yeah.
I'm really happy that he is getting a fair trial and has somebody like that on his side.
I do feel that way, but I also feel like, how many old men in this documentary need to project their issues onto this kid? You know, like
I know.
his
Yeah.
own grandfather, and then this guy. It's
I
like,
know. I
okay,
know.
guys.
But
Yeah.
just after just coming off covering Eileen Wuornos and just
Mhm.
the absolute miscarriage of justice her legal team
Yeah.
was, it's
Yeah.
like, and I shouldn't say the original, the Steve Glazer was the problem, but it's nice to see a lawyer who actually has his client's best intentions at
Yeah,
heart.
and some understanding of the issues
Mhm.
at play. Yeah.
Mhm. Like I said earlier, the Coast Guard do not believe he was in that life raft for 7 days. And his lawyers, however, counter that with a Navy SEAL expert. Well, not a Navy SEAL expert, an actual Navy SEAL slash
Mhm.
expert
Mhm.
who says when you're being rescued, your adrenaline amps up and you can do things physically. I mean, we all did see Titanic, and we do
Yeah.
know when she heard the lifeboat, Kate
Yeah.
Winslet did get up that adrenaline to blow that whistle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is something to that.
But okay, I'm like, you're a Navy SEAL. So does this apply to this kid?
To the
You
rest of
know?
us,
Yeah,
right?
to the rest of, or this guy, this young man who, has not had formal training, has been living in his mom's driveway. Like, it just was a little odd.
They use science for drift analysis, and they take into account the wind current, sea temperature, all of those things are monitored and factored in. And they do not believe that he sunk where he said he did. And the Navy SEAL working with the defense says, that's junk science. And the reporters are like, no, that is not junk science. Like some of the top climate scientists in the world use this method to track things. So it's not junk science.
Right.
The
Especially,
police. Go
it'd
ahead.
be interesting to know if using that science, they've been able to locate people that have disappeared previously, because if they're like consistently able to do that, then obviously it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The police also think Nathan knew the rescue ship was coming that way, that he had charted out the whole thing. And they
Mhm.
believe that he killed his mother pretty early on, got rid of her body, and then sunk the boat when he saw like he knew when
Oh,
this boat was coming to save him. So then he sinks his own boat, props up his lifeboat, gets on it, and like floats over to where he knows they're going to see him. That sounds
that's
there's a
extremely premeditated and requires like luck and
thank you. Yeah, I was just going to
smarts.
say that.
Yeah.
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 Like I would say of the wild card here, the ocean is quite
Yeah.
an unpredictable factor in that.
And those 4 little holes that you don't know, like, that's the thing. But
Now this is interesting too. We see a series of pictures, him waving from the raft. The raft looks fine. The minute he gets off the raft, it starts to deflate and sinks. And they're like, and
yeah.
they found a knife on him when they rescued him, and they think that he cut the raft so that they wouldn't know how long he was on it or have any evidence of wear and tear or anything like that on the raft.
Uh,
They also think that the gun is probably at the bottom of the ocean.
yeah.
So, his defense lawyers are like, how on earth could he do this? They're really making him out to be a criminal mastermind. They believe the boat, the body, and like I said, the gun are at the bottom of the ocean. In his deposition, he describes the boat sinking and says he didn't hear or see his mother say anything. And they're like, you didn't hear your mother saying anything as the boat is sinking. And he's like, no. Lawyers spend a year preparing for his trial, which was set for October 2023. But between that time, Nathan takes his own life. So he hanged himself in prison in, I want to say it was June or July 2023.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very sad.
Very sad. But this kind of goes back to my point, is I wonder if he was so wanting to kill his mother that he was okay if he passed as well.
I don't know. It's just, I was thinking about like how tragic this is that
Yeah.
like a whole family is gone.
Yeah.
It's so
And
sad.
and you wonder if they all just got like a bunch of therapy and treatment, if it could have
Hmm.
been different, you
Yeah.
know.
So poor Clark, he says, there was no note, no foreboding, no signs. I mean, we know enough about suicide now, though, to know that there doesn't have to be a sign or a note
Mhm.
or, anything.
Right.
He's like, I was totally in shock, and he's like, we're ready to go to trial. And I get a call that my son died. And he does not believe Nathan could have murdered his grandfather or his mother. He said he never would have harmed a soul. Charlene, the sister, says, we mourn the loss of Nathan as a child, but we did not mourn what he did and how it happened, and justice is done. And then she says, once it became apparent to us that Linda knew more than she was letting on, we kind of alienated her, and we feel really
Mhm.
bad about that.
Mhm.
Chuck says Linda did the best job she could, and maybe this was the only way she could protect her son, was to just go meet her fate. So Linda was pronounced dead in 2023. The murder of John Chocolos is a cold case now. And after his death, all charges against Nathan have been dropped. End of
Yeah.
documentary. It's really
Wow.
sad.
It's really sad. And also just I think there was one point in which they talked about how she didn't really like fishing and she didn't really want to go on these fishing excursions, but this was like
She
her
did it for
attempt
him.
at, yeah, she really was trying to get through to him and make
Mhm.
him feel she was there for him. And I don't know, it just makes it all the more tragic.
It really does. I give this documentary 4 out of 5 Dursts on the Jinx
I like it.
scale because
I
I thought it was well done. It was the right amount of time. It was
Mhm.
balanced. We got
Mhm.
like, I was left with wanting some more information, like some
Yeah.
additional information, but not a ton. There wasn't a
Yeah.
ton of it missing.
Yeah. And I liked that it was really interesting for me because it touched on so many different things, like the legal trust aspect, and then the fact that he had ASD. So you're dealing with kind of a unusual suspect, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and then, just the family drama. It was super interesting.
It was really interesting. So where do you stand? Guilt, innocence? What are you thinking at the end of
I think
this?
he did it.
I kind of do too. I
Yeah.
do too.
I
And
think
I'm
he did it.
trying to look at just the circumstantial evidence that doesn't rely on his ASD, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like,
Right. Like the way he communicated is one thing, but then he also just seemed to have a lot of entitlement, a lot of ego, kind of obsession with the money, and this family history of violence that probably wouldn't have escaped him. You'd think,
mhm.
he didn't seem like extremely well adjusted. So,
Remember the big three: means, motive, opportunity. He had all three for both
mhm.
murders.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And I do think that something happened on that boat. I don't know if it was as premeditated as they're making it out to be, but I definitely think, like, what could have happened, Shabnam, is they could have
Mhm.
gotten out there and Linda could have, sensing that she had him, a captive audience, if you will. I've waited to have conversations with my kids many times where we're in a car because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I got you now. You know
Y
what I mean? So we're going to talk about this.
yeah.
So there could have been a little bit of that because he was so isolated. It's not like, she could go over to his house or whatever. She gets
Yeah.
him out on the boat and she's like, I want to talk to you about, I think we should come clean about your grandfather, blah, 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 whatever. A fight ensues and he kills her
Right.
on the boat, not planning to. So there could have been some of that.
There could have, but just with the 4 holes, the cutting the
Yeah.
raft, the
Yeah.
having
It's
the
really
water.
hard not to to look at
Yeah,
all that.
it feels like he at least had a, like, if this happens, do I have a way of trying to survive?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, we solved it.
yes.
It's solved.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy what you hear and you want to sign up for bonus content, you can do that. Like I said earlier, the link is in the show notes. And thank you, Shabnam. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on your podcast?
Yeah, so they can find me at Chai After Dark. And on that, we are currently covering Pakistani soap operas or telenovela type soap operas. And so, yeah, we're having a good time with that.
Very fun. Now that's fun. That's
Yeah,
actual fun.
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm going to play us out. Shabnam, you stick around and we'll
Mhm.
see you next time. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening to Murder She Watched. To support the show, please consider joining Murder Club, our Patreon. For $10 a month, you get a bonus episode every week, plus all of our episodes ad-free, and it just helps me pay people and keep the pod going. If you'd like to support us without a financial contribution, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple or anywhere you listen to podcasts.